In this lesson, I want to show you how you can bring Google Map API into your web project. So just looking at this, we can sign up for Google Maps over at developer.google/maps, and you can sign up here to get your Map API key. Now with a Map API key, you could use it to monitor your application, and you'll also need it if you want to take a license on it. But if you don't include it, then you can also use the Google Map, but it's always better to register and set your application up with the Google Map. So that way, whenever you're linking over to the source, you're linking over to your Map API key. The first thing that you need to do is bring that Google library into your web project. So we already have all of the jQuery functionality and so on. So let's add in the maps, Google APIs.com maps API JS, and we're going to go with version 3. So now we've brought in the Google Maps library, and of course when we go to the web page, we're not going to see anything different. We can go over to our console. There's no errors that are being thrown. So we do have, there is actually a warning here. So this isn't an error, it's a warning. It's a slight difference here, but it's going to tell us that we have no API key. So again, if you're going to be using it within a web page and you're going to be using it a lot, just register your API key and add the Google library within this type of format where you do $key. So let's go ahead and write up our code where we're going to populate this element here with a Google map. So let's add in our script tags here, and with this map what we want to do is we want to make sure that it's actually loaded. So we're going to listen for a Google, so this is all part of the Google object that we brought in from this particular library. So we're doing Google Maps event, and we're adding a DOM listener. And we're listening on the window object. We're listening for it to load, and we want to run a function once it's loaded, so init. So typically we use function name init once it's initialized, so just stick with that. And then we need to set up that function that's going to fire off when this particular event gets triggered. So this is the init function, and so this is going to initiate and create the map content. So let's go take a look at this, just make sure that everything is loading properly. I usually like to check to see if I'm getting console errors. So everything looks correct. Of course, we're still getting that no API key issue there as well. So now let's set up some variables. So variable, so wherever your coordinates are for your business, this is where you could set these. So this would be lat and lon, so I'll just call it LAL, and it's going to equal to, so these are the parameters used within the Google Map. So we can set a latitude and a longitude. So if you know your latitude and you know your longitude, this is where the map marker is going to sit. So it's going to sit at maybe 108. I'm actually not sure where this is going to end up, but we'll just give it a shot with a latitude and a longitude of 108. And now let's create the map object. So set a variable, call it map, because this is going to be our brand new map object. So we do new Google Maps dot map to create the map object, and let's set it up in the document get element by ID, and then this is where we need to identify that element that we want to contain that particular map. So we've called it map, so that's where we need to identify it, and now we just need to add in the rest of the parameters. So we've got some options here how we want to present that map content. So we can set a bunch of parameters here as well. Some of them, things like zoom. So these are default parameters that are available within the Google Maps. We can also center it. So we want to center that map on these coordinates. So I'm taking the coordinates LAL, and that's where we're going to set those, the center of the map. You could also bring those in as well and just create it as an object there. Go out to the web page, refresh it, and we'll take a look at that and see what this looks like. So there's one other additional thing that we do need to set, and we need to set some styling for this particular map element. So right now we've got our map element there. And let's go up to where we're setting our styling. We're going to locate that map element and add some styling to it. So what you want to do, typically you want to set a width for it. So set width of it to 400 pixels or whatever makes sense for it for your website design. So height 400 pixels. And maybe we could even do something like a background color if we want, of course. We could also do it by percentage as well. So again, whatever makes sense. And typically if it's a responsive site, you might want to do it within percentages. So this is a background color, and this is in case the map doesn't load. So just do a gray color. So now whenever we go out to our web page, let's refresh it and see where our map ends up. So now we've got this map object here. We've got some styling applied to it. And there we go. So now we've centered our map. So it looks like we're ending up somewhere in China. So maybe let's do, instead of a map 400, let's do 100%, or we could center it. I'm actually going to get rid of the width, and I think the only one that you do need is height. So let's give it a height of 200 pixels, and now let's go back out and take a quick look at that and see what this ends up. So if you don't set default width, it's just going to automatically take 100%, and it's going to build out that map object here. So it's just taking a few seconds here to load out. So another thing we might need to do is we need to add in a marker. So let's go ahead and add that marker in. So going back down to here where we're setting up our original source code, we've got our map that we've set up, and now let's do the marker object. So this is another object similar to what we did with our map. So just call it marker, and we're going to do new Google Maps marker and specify the parameters of the marker that we want to create. So it's going to be this same thing where we need to position it. So position, and it's a good thing that we set up that position within this object here, the LAL. So now we can set that position, and we can position the map with that particular marker. So this is just the container of the marker. So let's see where we ended up, where we set that marker. So we probably, so you have to figure out where your latitude and longitude is, and that's how you can set up your map and, of course, center your map. So by default, your map is always going to be centered within this particular page. So maybe we want it to set our latitude to -40. Just a quick update there, refresh it, and now we can see where we end up. So we're ending up almost in Australia as a latitude. And of course, we can update the longitude as well. And again, this is just all random here. I'm actually not sure where I'm ending up with this map, but it is kind of fun to play around and see where you end up with latitude and longitude. And I'm going to take one more try at this. I'm copying what they had within the Google parameters there for latitude and longitude. So one more shot at it. And of course, we can change all of these parameters, the zoom level, and so on. So in this case, we're ending up in Australia, and the zoom level was 5 in that case as well. So in the next lesson, we're going to finish off this project. I'm going to show you how you can make some additional pages really easily at this point now, now that you've set up your basic template for Bootstrap. Add in your other maybe 2 pages that you have in your website, update some of this content, and so on. So that's coming up in the next section.